Greetings, friends, and welcome on this St. Patrick's Day, 2022. I'll light the candle and say, "Kiss me, I'm Irish." So I hope everyone's doing great. And yeah, we have our wonderful verse 49. We're getting closer and closer to the Eastertide. And so I'm wondering if there's some brave soul out there who would like to be our reader for the verse today. It's a beautiful one, as they all are. And Lark's got her hand up. Go ahead, Lark.
Not feeling very brave, but I'll happily read it. I feel the force of cosmic life. Thus speaks my clarity of thought, recalling its own spirit growth through nights of cosmic darkness. And to the new approach of cosmic day, it turns its inward rays of hope.
Yeah, beautiful. So we're feeling that balance coming between the night and the day, the dark and the light, aren't we? We'll be experiencing that more and more as we move toward the vernal equinox, which happens this Sunday. So, yeah, at first I was, I thought, oh, well, I have this one in my pocket. I've talked about St. Patrick many a day, and it's a wonderful thing to talk about, the history and all of that. But I really felt called to bring what Steiner talks about, how important the island of Ireland is. So I thought to bring something from that today. It's a special land, a sacred land that holds the impulse of the Garden of Paradise before the fall. And Steiner mentions that there is still a protective aura around this sacred isle that makes it really hard for a seer to penetrate and read the Akashic record. Even somebody like Steiner, he said he had a hard time because the initiates of the mystery centers of Hibernia created this powerful circle of protection and light, which has such an extraordinary, these repelling forces that unless one can go forward with a pure heart and a courageous spiritual gaze, there's a real resistance there that produces a kind of, he calls it a kind of bewilderment. So we can just picture our dear Dr. Steiner trying to penetrate the mysteries here. So, yeah, and what were these mysteries? I thought we could talk about that today. I think it's really so interesting. There was this goal of the candidates for initiation into the Hibernian Mysteries, which was to live into the cosmic word. So preparation rites subjected them to stern tests, really stripping them of all that they knew, all that they thought they wanted, really just removing everything, even hope, making them a blank page for the word to be written on. So what I'd like to bring you today is, this is from lecture 7 of the Mystery Centers. And Steiner gave this in Dornach on the 7th of December in 1923. So I'm just gonna stop this screen share here and just invite you to live into this imagination that I'd like to create for us based on Rudolf Steiner's ability to see into these Akashic records and bring us these mysteries. So he talks about how when a candidate for initiation had passed the grades required, that they were led before two colossal statues, but before two mighty, majestic forms. And so one had the essence of the male, and the other the female. And through these statues, the pupils experienced the approach of the cosmic word. So these forms were to them the external letters by which they must begin to decipher this cosmic secret that was literally placed before them. So you can imagine this male statue was made of, calls it like a compressible elastic material. And so the pupils were made to press into the statue. And through this action, they found out that they could do that, but it was hollow inside. And so it was, in fact, only the skin of the statue that was made of this elastic material, so that after being pressed, it regained the same shape. And so then over the head of this statue, there was, Steiner calls it a soul eye. So you could picture like how in ancient Egyptian times, you see the figure of the eye that is actually represents a sun. So this was holding this content of the whole macrocosm. So this is the big picture that the sun kind of radiates and shines forth for us. And that this statue made the impression of this sun, this soul eye, directly into the pupil, giving them the insight that the macrocosm works through the sun and forms the human head. So you following me? We're creating a picture here, right? The sun creating the human head. And then when the pupil approached the other statue, they first of all saw rays of light raying in towards it. And then in the midst of this light, the pupil then saw a female form standing completely under the influence of these rays. And the feeling came to them that the head was created out of these rays, but that there was something kind of indefinite about the head. And this statue was made of a pliable substance, not elastic like the first one, but malleable and extraordinarily soft. So again, the pupil was made to press into it. And every pressure they made remained. So it created like an indentation, right? Until, of course, the next candidate approached, and they each had this experience of what their touch created these indentations, and then they were to meditate on, what does that mean? What impressions am I making here? So it had an extraordinarily powerful impression upon their souls, right? This second statue was revealed to bring an influence of the moon forces, which permeated the organism and caused the head to grow out from the moon. So you see, we're working with these two images here of the sun and the moon. So they were brought before these statues often. And each time, the impressions, things were different. They were learning new things. And each time the indentations were examined. And on the first occasions, they're led to the statues in groups of pupils. And they were led by those who were already initiated. And then came a time when each pupil would be taken to have this experience by themselves. They were made to test the statues, to experience, like I said, first this elasticity, and then the pliability in which those indentations that they made remained. They could examine. And then, so the people was left alone to feel what were the impressions that they were making into these statues? What did that mean to them? And so that made a powerful impression on their souls. And so these sensations caused the pupils to have the most vivid longing when they were again and again brought before these two statues, this longing that appeared to them as a great riddle, something in, it was something that was calling to them, this longing that belonged to their soul, that they needed to solve this riddle. They needed to solve this riddle in their souls. And that somehow, if they could do that, they would understand the nature of these statues. They would understand the nature of their own souls. So they would stand before these statues with their whole being. And it was like they were one big colossal question mark. Well, that's the way Steiner describes it. Everything in them was a question. Reason asked. The heart asked. The will asked. Everything asked. Steiner tells us that even though he's describing an ancient mystery, that the people of today, you and me, we can still learn from these things. We can bring these images into our own cognitive imagination and live into that and feel that longing within ourselves and ask questions. So when this had been gone through, the candidates were then led in a kind of probation. They were led before the cosmic Artemis mysteries of Ephesus. So we have this sort of progression, and then this cosmic Artemis mystery created even more questions in their minds. It intensified their questions. And this experience brought them into the region which the soul experiences when it feels, and I quote, "I stand now before the power which guards the threshold to the spiritual world." So after the pupils had gone through this time of probation, they were led again before the statues, and the initiating priest remained with the pupil in the temple. Now the pupils saw, after standing again in silence, listening to what their own souls would say after this preparation and this testing, then they saw the initiating priest rising above the head of the first statue. And it appeared as if the sun were further back. And in the space between the statue and the sun, the priest appeared as if covering the sun. And then came forth as if out of Steiner describes it as a musical, harmonious tone. And this was the speech of the initiator coming through this statue. So when the pupil was at this stage, it seemed to them as if these words were sounding forth from the lips of the initiator that was pronounced by the God in the statue, right? So let me put up the screen share here so you can see, for those who can read the German. This is what Steiner tells us, and I'll read the English translation. Quote, "I am the image of the world. Behold, I lack being. I must live in your knowledge. I become alive in your consecration." So this made, as you can imagine, a powerful impression on the pupil. And then after the priest stepped back, and then the pupil was left again in silence to contemplate. And then after a while, the second initiator came in. This one then appeared over the second statue, and again, in a kind of musical, harmonious tone, this resounding voice of the priest initiator came forth from the statue, pronouncing these words, which Steiner gives us. I am the image of the world. Behold, I lack certainty. If you will dare to live with me, I will be your solace. And again, the initiator vanished, and the pupil left alone to contemplate. And all these experiences, which called forth in the pupil the consciousness that they've reached beyond illusion, beyond any kind of expectation in the physical world. But there were also these feelings that were like inwardly active flames of fire. That's how Steiner describes them. So they were left to feel that they were consumed by an inner fire, as if inwardly they could be annihilated. And so the soul swung back and forth between these feelings of, I've reached beyond the illusion, and yet I'm going to burn up, right? Very, very intense. So the candidate was tested in the balance between this knowledge and bliss. And while the pupil went through this inner experience and came to attain something that we could call the inner word, through this trial, they come to understand the inner word. And then the statues themselves spoke. And one statue says, and I quote, I am knowledge, but what I am has no being. And now the pupil was filled with this feeling of radiating fear, which said to them, quote, what the human being has of ideas is only idea. There is no being in it. Ideas are illusion, not being. So this is what they come to. Wow, right? All these ideas, these lofty ideas, it's really, it doesn't hold any substance, right? It's hollow inside. Get it? Yeah. And then the other statue said, quote, I am ecstasy, but what I am has no certainty. And so it was that the two statues confronted the pupil. The one statue represented ideas have no being, and the other that these images of fantasy, our imaginations, they really don't have a certainty. There's a certain truth that's missing there. So all this the individual pupil experiences, and they're experiencing this in absolute loneliness. You know, they're feeling this tearing apart within their own being, having to leave everything that they thought behind, and this burning fire. And this inner experience was so powerful that their outer senses actually just fail. And after a time, they don't even see the statue anymore. But instead, they start to behold these flames, these letters of flame. So these letters of flame over the head of the male or knowledge statue, where they read the word science. And then over the head of the other statue, in flaming letters, they read the word art. So after they've experienced this, they're led back through the temple door. The two initiators again they're standing there by the threshold. And one of them directed the pupil towards a new form, the form of the Christ. This is the middle pillar, Christ. Who this form then speaks to them and says, quote, receive the word and the power of this being into your heart. So the Christ speaks through the priest and says, receive the word into your heart. And then the other priest talks about how we have to receive the Christ. From the Christ, these two images of science and art. So from this being of the Christ, we receive these two pillars within ourselves. So, yeah, these were really the first two acts of the Hibernian initiation, which led to an actual experience of the inmost being of Christ as the Word. And this was stamped. It was stamped deeply into the souls and the minds of the neophytes. And then after they had been imprinted, this had been imprinted into them, they could then proceed further on the path of knowledge. And Steiner goes into that in the next lecture, but I think we'll stop there for today because it's such a beautiful picture and so intense. I hope that's living in each of us. And yeah, can we bring this quality of art and science together in ourselves? That's the question. And then, of course, to do that, we have to engage our will, don't we? And so, yeah, let's engage our will. Go ahead and unmute, Nancy.
Will forces, here we come. Let's jump right from Hazel's words and like profound and amazing journey. It's so hard to take it as a, sitting here at the other side of a Zoom meeting, but let's take it in deeply and ponder it all day and do something with our hands now. Engage our will and something artistic, something I like to think of origami rather scientifically too. It's quite a exact process of folding. You will need a piece of paper and nothing else, a surface perhaps to push against. And I'll try to do it in the air in front of you. So again, we're going to make our square, which follows this fold. And then you can either bend or cut off the extra. I like bending and folding, but cutting is a little faster sometimes. Oh, the bird. There he went. I love those flashes of green. When you get this far, let me know. And I'll stop here, let everybody catch up. Looks good. Okay, and if you need to do this later, this is recorded. Okay, so we're going to open and do the same fold the other direction. So we have a shape that can be grasped by its corners and put together. But before we do that, we need 2 more folds to make it easier. So we're going to fold the square into a rectangle. And again.
I just lost you on that, Nancy.
Sure. We had our triangle, which we folded 2 ways. Now we need the square to become a rectangle. So just folding the other, so back this far. Was I too close? And it does help each time to open the page up and create a new fold rather than folding it this way, for instance. Because this, if you fold each one new, all the folds are working towards the same side. And you might want to go over your folds a couple times so that this point where they all meet can be seen rather crisply. Yeah. And what are we making? Well, I've been holding on to this one for the entire series of classes. It's a shape I adore, and it means so many things to me. It's a little tricky though, so I wanted to get to the end of, near the end. So we've been doing a lot of work together. But I think you'll find it simple. It's just a few more steps than we've been doing. So when Hazel came with the idea of the emptying and then the filling up again that is in the initiations, I thought, oh, I've got the shape for this. So we're going to fold something flat, and later our breath will inspire it to open. Okay, so here we are. Find your triangle again. Point up, flat down, and grab it by these 2 sides. See, my hands are, and push in. Push in. If you've made this, if this point is crisp, it's going to help you now. Push in so that you see it becomes this shape, like a little pinwheel. Yeah, and then flatten it, doesn't matter which way, left or right, just flatten it so that you've got a triangle now, still.
I lost you again.
Okay, that's what I need to hear. From here, find your triangle. Hold each side so you've compressed it and press in. And if you've done a strong job of making your folds, you should be able to take what was flat. You see, what was this triangle becomes this triangle. And then each side folds to create this. And we're going to put the point at the top. So the point. Now, this little arm is going to go up and think of it as touching the nose of the top. And you're going to press this. And the other side. It's a fold up all the way to the top. And we're halfway done. Lovely. Turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. I'm doing this in the air. It does help to do it against a surface. And you will have a diamond. This is very close to the final shape. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, it's all in pieces there, but it's very tight here. Now, you'll see you have two sides to each side. On the side that you can see, fold it in. So it's like you're touching your center. This little corner tucks in to the center.
It does.
It can. It should be able to.
So is the center point still at the top and the little?
Now, in this case, we're taking a diamond and think of it as the navel, essentially. There's like, you know, your belly button. You're going to tickle your belly button.
Okay.
Yeah. And you get a kind of a lozenge shape with these flanges from the other side still showing. We're almost there. Ooh, yeah.
Like that?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
So do we do the opposite side too now?
Correct. Flip it around and do this opposite. All this flat folding, soon to be inspired. Think of that wonderful initiation process that flattened people, just took all the wind out of them, just let them be receptive. That's what we have now. We have this just receptive. There you go. Now,
And do the
Mark,
other
just
side?
flip it around and do the other side. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes, wonderful. Mary, where are you? Let's see. Okay, good. Let me just help you out.
Yeah, I couldn't.
So you're here,
Pinwheel.
just a couple folds behind us. Don't worry. So this little point here is going to come up and touch the top of the mountain to here.
Okay.
Just one side. I think you're folding both sides. I think that's your. Oh, maybe.
Well, back at the pinwheel, I couldn't figure that out.
Okay, are you here?
Yeah.
Yes, you're here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it is a bit, pinwheel is a great description of it. You hold each of these corners and push to the center. It is a little fiddly, but push to the center. Pop them open. Yeah, these have to pop open.
Oh.
Yes, you're getting it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you're getting it. Anybody else lost? Let's catch them up.
So the
You might
fold-
need to crisp or folds tighter.
Yes, it does help. And I'm doing this in the air, so you're not seeing me do it, but it really helps to push down onto a table and get your folds tighter. And then once you get that, spin it around so that your point is at the top. Yes. Oh, you've got it. Great. Now imagine these are hands and you're going to tickle your nose. Go all the way up to the point here. And there's one on each side. So one side comes up and the other side comes up. We've got 4 of them. Flip it over. There. Yeah. And for those,
Easier said than done.
oh yeah, definitely. This is not an easy shape. I saved this for almost for the end. On the other hand, you will, once you learn it, it's so much fun to do. I confess, with antsy children in the back seat, I folded one while driving, blown it open and thrown it into the back seat to surprise them, and it worked. And I managed to stay on the road. So we have here this lozenge. Yeah, now you have 2 little sides
Yeah, I haven't caught up.
that you can fold to the middle. Think of that as the belly button.
Okay.
Yes, there you go. There you go, Mary. You got it.
In both cases, we're facing toward on the side where we have the seam.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The seam is running down the center and think of it as sort of a belly button, a navel. It comes these little side flanges. It's like your hand comes in. Yeah. Now, this is the final fiddly place. This is the very last thing. You'll see you have a section that's got lots of available foldy parts, and one that is, you can't move it. It's stuck. It's folded away. This one has little pieces that can be moved. Yeah. So each one of these little flanges open up a little bit like an iris, yeah, like a flower, and fold down. And this turns out, through the marvels of your folding, to be a pocket. See that? And you can fold this little petal down into the pocket and catch it tight. You've done it once, you'll do it 3 more times.
I lost you on that one too.
Sure. You've got this sort of, oh, there's a beautiful mathematical name for this shape and I can't remember it. This shape, but it's giving you the opportunity of moving these sections here like petals, and a little, the part that you folded into the navel will pop open if you squeeze it. Squeeze it, it'll pop open.
I don't understand.
Ah, okay. This one that has come in from the side, here it is.
Right. Yeah.
If you push on it, do you see it will pop open? It makes a little pocket. You got it, Hazel. Yeah. Yes, there it is. There's your pocket. And tuck what will fold right into it, into the pocket.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes,
I
yes,
can-
yes.
I get them.
And you can do this 4 times. If you don't get it, don't worry. The shape kind of does work, but this is like folding your envelope and licking it closed. It's really securing
Okay.
the shape. One more time. Push on it, it opens.
So we're doing the
Other side as well, yes.
side as well.
So all,
Somehow you can't see the creases or anything in your light.
I'm trying to figure out how to make it better. Is that better?
Tiny bit.
Less reflection. I should have worked in something other than white paper, perhaps. Would that help?
So Nancy, at this point,
Like
what-
this.
lead us from
Yes.
this point here. Oh,
What did you do?
Yes, you've got it. Now, if you realize that you can put your fingers and grasp it's got 4 flanges at this point, and you can grasp them. One side is closed.
Mhm.
Yeah, the other side
It's open.
has a hole. Into this hole, you're going to blow a nice puff of air. And you get a balloon.
Wow, look at that. Oh my
A
gosh,
ball.
amazing.
So to go from flattened to empty to inspired.
I'm still flat and empty.
Oh, okay. Would it help? You know what I could do? I could go help get a piece of paper that has color on it. Because I think this white one is hard. Let me,
I got as far as flat and empty. That just does.
I did it.
Have hit the
Just
inspiration.
Throw something in your pockets and then you'll be good to go.
Just like
I don't
comment,
understand this pocket thing at all. It's not making any, it's not translating into any kind of, all I see is these little, I got as far as the little flanges, you know?
Okay, so when you have those little petals,
yeah,
and you look at the little triangle part that's underneath of them,
yes.
there's a little,
What triangle part that's underneath
okay,
it?
so if you're, so you have your little phalanges,
Yeah.
Right, and right where you fold them over to make the phalange, when you open it up and look at the fold right underneath of that, you'll see that there's actually a little opening.
Am I folding the tip of this thing middle to the navel part?
No, you're tucking it in the pocket.
The first time you did, the second time you're going, here we go. Keep helping out. It's very nice to get a second
And
voice in there.
There are two sides, Sandy. So one side doesn't have pockets, the other side does.
I don't understand pocket. Oh,
That you can slide something into it within it.
Raphael isn't to bring us from flatness into inspiration. Isn't the Archangel Raphael the one who inspires?
That's right. We talked about that last night. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
There you have it. And if you want to, you can flatten it again easily. Just push it together and stick it in your pocket for when you need it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, so maybe we could think about these concepts of something that's hollow and then something that's filled, and what is it that we're doing with our lives, that we're making impressions on the world, and what could that possibly mean? Can we work between science and art and find ourselves in that Christ space where that happens? And so I don't know if anybody had any impressions from that. Anybody remember being in Hibernia at that time? Were you there with me?
I was asleep.
But I'm sure we all have felt this idea of being in that place of questioning, right? In that place of loneliness, in that place of wondering what are we doing? So maybe we could share about that a little bit.
Do we have time for breakout rooms? It's 10:16.
Well, we could go in for a few, or we could stay together. What do people want to do?
How many people are we?
We are less than usual today. We've got about 10 or 11. Yeah. What's living in you today? Maybe we could just go from there.
Let's stay as a group, as a large group.
Yeah. Who's celebrating St. Patrick's Day today? I see a couple people wearing green.
Green right there.
Yeah, right there. There you go. That's perfect.
who is that?
That's the new, this parrot landed on my head in the park last week. We didn't, it was going to be freezing cold. So she came home and she is our new resident while we search for her owner. And if the owner no one has appeared yet, we might have a new individual in our household. And Helios actually likes her. I named, temporarily, we named her Verdi as a double play on, she's a she, but on her beautiful music and her speech, which is also beautiful, and verde, which is Spanish for green.
Yeah, the power of the word is such an important thing. When we name something, then we get to the essence of it, and this quality of this initiation, bringing us to the living word, which is really the essence of things. But of course, we know that the macrocosm, when it comes into the microcosm, is very specific and very generalized, not generalized all the time, but at the same time, we have all these little details. And, here we are, all human beings, and we each have a name, right? And we all hopefully, work in some way with the science of numbers and mathematics and things that we have to think about and use our knowledge to acquire. And yet there's also this part of us that yearns to be creative. And so how do we bring those things together within ourselves? You know, this is always something that I feel makes us truly human. And that, of course, then activates our will, right? And then we have to do something with that knowledge or with that impulse for creativity. So I'm just throwing out some ideas here. Maybe people have something to say about it. I don't know.
You know, I've thought, as a teacher, I taught in public high school for 20 years. And it was not always, but there's a discussion, is teaching a science or an art? You know, can you just give a lesson plan to someone? You know, is it transferable to be a teacher and teach someone how to teach? Or is there, once you have, say, content, do you have to breathe imagination into it? Examples, experience, and that comes to mind in teaching. I always erred on the side, I said it's really more art than science. You know, you can have the content, but then it's hollow, to go back to the imagery, without someone's, you know, life force, imagination, enthusiasm, you know, in what they bring. So teaching as art and science as a blend comes to mind.
Yeah, I'm all about the blend, you know, and then of course we know at the end of this initiation, right, they're brought to that place where they actually meet the living word. They meet that Christ impulse, which is that middle pillar that brings these two seemingly polaric qualities together.
Hazel, I
Go
had a
ahead.
question. When you said Christ, are the Hibernian Mysteries pre-Golgotha, post-Golgotha?
You know,
Because,
yeah, you know, he does, and I forgot to mention this. He speaks about how when the event of Golgotha was happening in Palestine, that the Hibernian initiates were able to experience it, actually see it happening in the etheric realm. So, and of course, they were of the school where they were able to anticipate that this Christ being was coming to the earth and prepare for that. So these mysteries, if they're using this word before the word Christos was there before the Christ had actually come to the earth. So I think it applies in both cases.
Dennis Klosik talks about how we all have to initiate ourselves these days. That in this time, we're all undergoing initiation on some level. And it resonated with, when you talked about these different experiences, it resonated with things that I kind of experienced as an art student in Chicago. You know, getting to a place where I just didn't want to speak for a couple of weeks until I could say one word that was true or that came from within, or, you know, some of these experiences, it seems like people sort of come into them, and it almost I've worked with a lot of children with disabilities and emotional disturbance, and sometimes it feels like they're really longing for initiation. It's really a longing for initiation, and or maybe it's a memory of or an actual initiation that's happening. And so often we're prescribed medications instead. We don't seem to have guidance, but that's also part of what the issue is right now, that we're all sort of having to find the pieces of the puzzle and maybe put them together somehow.
Yeah, and as Leah is said in the chat, I mean, we can help each other. We can help initiate, and we do, whether we're conscious of it or not. We are initiators to each other. Our children are initiators to us. We can be helping them to achieve their highest destiny. And it's not necessarily a prescribed initiation like it was in the ancient times. Of course, we have to be our own initiators. We have to take it on through our own intention, but we can, we can help each other. We can work together to bring these things into focus, right?
Couple of things to share on that. The beautiful Waldorf Advent circle spiral ritual to me is a real opportunity for young children to experience that in a very safe way, in a safe and beautiful way. I always noticed that the children held themselves more uprightly after they went through that experience of getting the light from the central candle, putting the candle down, creating a spiral of light together. It was just, and it was such an atmosphere of wonder and reverence. And Joan and I did that for the community, and just did a public community midwinter, whatever you want to call it, spiral at a space that she found near her house. And I played the lyre and we set the whole thing up, and it was a lovely experience for the community. Some people say that adults shouldn't do that, but it's really, if it's done in reverence, it's really a kind of an initiation experience, I think. And then on the other side, the cultural understanding of that, when we lack a spiritual understanding, and people have these experiences, they're oftentimes considered insane. And there's a really amazing novel written by a Russian author in the early 1900s called The Master and Margarita. And it's Mikhail Bulgakov. And he talks about the master who is now in a Russian insane asylum and having experiences of the Holy Week and the mystery of Golgotha. And it's also a very compassionate rendering of those experiences. It's a wonderful novel to read during the time before Easter. But if you haven't had a chance to see that one, the devil comes to Moscow and he has a wonderful time because no one recognizes him, because no one believes in spiritual realities. So it's a very playful but serious exploration of societal norms and how that plays out in the spiritual world.
Very much community is our vessel of initiation these days. There was a woman spoke last night, Jennifer Hornberger and her husband Horst, and they're creating new rituals completely not based on any kind of past stuff, although she's still using the template of the festival seasonal energies, but a lot of it having to do with what's going on in society. How do we meet that? How do we meet the needs of community? How do we bring in the archetypes in a new way? I think it's really important.
And doesn't Steiner say the last and the most recent of the arts is the social art, what we do with each other?
We can really look at, I see Neelima there. I've missed you. I'm glad to see you back. And, I think about the life of the hive and how everything they do is a ritual to serve the sun. We are these intermediaries between the sun and the earth. And we can learn a lot from how much they cooperate with each other. And I think about that waggle dance and how powerful that is, and how we as human beings, we've imitated that in the past.
Been great to hear. We're having days of great warmth followed by nights of great cold, and I've been out meditating with the hive each morning to make sure that I'm there at the moment that the sun strikes her entrance, to see how she responds to that. And it's stands with me for the first time. One morning very recently, the sun struck her entrance. I turned my gaze to the entrance, and one lone bee came out, and usually they will make their lemniscates everywhere and sort of explore the, where the environment is, get their bearings. But this one little bee straight into the sun. It's just like, yeah. I'm happy to say that the hive in my care seems to be thriving.
And so, we can also think of, to me, I really, the impressions of the two forces of the sun and the moon are so interesting. You have, I think of the rose connected to the sun and to the bees, and then the moon forces connected to the lily, right? And so we really need both of them, because the moon forces, they bring that moisture, they bring that fertility, and etc. And so we need to have this balance. And I think that's an important thing that we might be missing here in our patriarchal times. Well, we have one more minute. Anybody want to talk about the shamrock and how it represents the Trinity, or anything?
Is the fourth one the Christ? Or what is that? Four elements in the Christ? Or I don't know, what is it?
Bodies of the human being. We can make it what we want, huh?
Has anyone ever found a 4-leaf clover?
I have a friend who finds them all the time.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
It's
Daughter
crazy.
finds them all
I've
the
had one
time.
given.
All the
I
time.
found 4 in 2 weeks once,
Whoa.
and hadn't found any for years, but I was at a life change point and trying to figure out, am I really on the right path? Give me some sign. I looked down and there was a 4-leaf clover. And then I found 3 more within the next 2 weeks. It was incredible. Dog
Amazing how we can inform, and our environment, even the physical world can work with us to bring our intentions forth and give us affirmation. That's beautiful.
And I think too, the other thing that's missing, I mean, that, when I was thinking of, when I saw your pillars, I was, non plus ultra. It's the ancient symbol of the Herculean pillars of, you can't go any farther, but you can if you have help, if you have that higher spiritual help, or in this case, with the 2 pillars that you're, it was a steady process as you were portraying, to be able to go through. And that, to me, what's always been so important is the work with the angel, how, in teaching, Jerome was talking about how, we mix, when you bring enthusiasm, which to be filled with spirit, begeistert, then you have, you can enliven even the most deadened subject through enthusiasm and using, artistic means to be able to do that. But often those ideas for that as a teacher to me have literally landed in my head. So I always give thanks to my angel, because I feel like, that is our extra help, that as long as we do some work, not even I fear enough work, but some, that they give us these little gifts all the time. Yeah, filled with spirit. Yeah. Mine has to get filled again.
Well, thank you, friends. Thank you for being inspired with us. And I hope that you take these images into your life and create the art and science that you're meant to do. And I appreciate our community. And we'll see you next week. We'll delve into the energies of Holy Week and Easter for our last session before the Easter break. So yeah, let's blow out our candles, shall we? Whew. Blessings.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Hazel and Nancy, everyone.
Oh, I love staying all together today. This was lovely to hear, to be able to hear everyone.
Yeah.
And I love it when we can all talk a lot, but just to hear everybody being able to, I feel like I didn't miss so much.
Thank you.
I know.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.